It's been years you've built a different life, new routines, new people, maybe a different city, a different chapter entirely. By every reasonable measure you've moved on. And then out of nowhere, a smell, a street, a name mentioned in passing conversation. And for 3 seconds, you're right back there, standing in the exact moment that goodbye happened, feeling it as freshly as the day it occurred. You wonder what's wrong with you. Why, after all this time, after everything you've rebuilt, this one thing still has the power to reach across years and pull you back. Nothing is wrong with you. There is a real, well-documented reason why certain goodbyes refuse to fully close, no matter how much time passes. And once you understand it, the years of confusion finally make sense. Most goodbyes heal the way most wounds heal. There's pain, then less pain, then a scar that occasionally aches in bad weather, but otherwise stays quiet. That's the normal process. That's how the majority of endings work. But some goodbyes don't follow that pattern. They stay raw in a way that defies the calendar. And there are specific reasons for that. Reasons that have nothing to do with weakness or an inability to move forward. The first reason, the ending didn't match the size of what it was ending. This is one of the most common explanations and one of the least discussed. When something significant ends with a conversation that feels proportionate, clear, honest, mutual, with both people understanding what happened and why, the brain can process it relatively cleanly. There's a beginning, middle, and end to the story, and the mind can file it as complete. But when something significant ends abruptly, quietly, without the conversation that should have happened, without the explanation that the relationship's importance seemed to deserve, the brain doesn't get what it needs to close the file. It's left holding a story with no proper ending, and minds do not like incomplete stories. They keep returning to them, searching for the missing piece long after the relationship itself is gone. If your goodbye felt smaller than the relationship actually was, if something that mattered enormously ended with something that felt disproportionately quiet, that mismatch is likely part of why it never fully settled. The second reason, you weren't actually ready regardless of how the timing worked out. Sometimes goodbyes happen at a pace dictated by circumstance rather than emotional readiness. A move, a diagnosis, a decision made by someone else that you had no real say in death sometimes, which offers no negotiation at all. When an ending arrives before the heart has had time to prepare for it, something gets frozen in place. Not literally, but emotionally, a part of the grieving process gets interrupted before it completes its natural arc. And that interruption doesn't resolve itself just because years accumulate on the calendar. Time alone does not finish unfinished grief. Only processing does. And if the processing never fully happened because life moved too fast to allow it, the unfinished piece remains exactly where it was left. The third reason, the relationship represented something larger than the person themselves. This one runs deep, and it's worth sitting with honestly. Sometimes what we're actually grieving isn't just the person. It's what they represented, a version of ourselves that existed only around them. A sense of possibility of youth, of a future that included them and disappeared when they did. A specific kind of safety or excitement or being known that hasn't been replicated since. When a goodbye carries that much symbolic weight, when it represents the closing of an entire chapter of identity, rather than just the absence of one person, it makes sense that it would take longer to heal. You're not only grieving them, you're grieving a version of your own life that existed because of them. And that version doesn't come back just because new chapters get written. The fourth reason, there was love present, but the ending happened before the love got to finish what it was doing. Love, when it's genuine, isn't just a feeling. It's an active process, building trust, deepening understanding, creating shared history that continues to develop the longer two people stay connected. When a goodbye interrupts that process while it's still actively unfolding, while the relationship was still growing, rather than having reached its natural completion, something stays suspended. The love doesn't get the chance to fully express itself, fully resolve. he fully reach whatever its natural conclusion would have been. This is different from a relationship that ran its course and ended when there was genuinely nothing left to build. That kind of ending tends to heal more completely because the process actually finished. But love, interrupted mid-development, cut short by circumstance rather than completion, often lingers precisely because it never got to reach an actual ending. It just stopped. The fifth reason: you've never let yourself fully feel it. This is the most uncomfortable one, but often the most important. A lot of people in the immediate aftermath of a painful goodbye do what feels necessary to function. They compartmentalize. They stay busy. They build forward momentum because stopping to feel the full weight of what happened seemed impossible at the time. Given everything else that needed to be managed, that survival strategy works in the short term. But grief that gets postponed doesn't disappear. It waits, and it tends to resurface in fragments for years at unexpected moments, triggered by small things, precisely because it was never given the space to move through fully the first time. If this goodbye still has unusual power over you after a long stretch of time, it's worth asking honestly whether you ever actually let yourself feel the full weight of it, or whether you simply managed your way past the moment and kept moving without ever fully processing what happened. None of this means something is wrong with you. It means certain endings carry weight that doesn't dissolve just because years pass. Healing isn't always linear, and it isn't always complete on the timeline we expect it to follow. What helps more than time alone is finally giving the goodbye the space it never got. Naming what it actually meant, letting yourself feel what you postponed feeling. Sometimes even writing the conversation you never got to have, just for yourself, so the story finally has the ending it was always missing. If this explains something you've been carrying without quite understanding why, drop A in the comments. Tell me, has it been years for you too? I read every single one, and you're not alone in this. If Heart Whisper has given you something real today, please subscribe and turn on the bell. Every week I bring you honest psychology about love loss and the things that stay with us longer than we expect. The next video is already on its way. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you there.